Is there a point for Democrats, as frustrating as it may be, that pushing Bill Barr and the Mueller report could be too much for voters who are trying to live their best life?
Oh, without question. I think Elise is exactly right that it's both. I think it's good for Trump. It might actually be good for Democrats because if the report, if the Barr letter had been very inflammatory, it would have pushed a lot of Democrats to the proper belief that they would have to impeach the president, and that could be a distraction from what voters in 2020 want to hear about. But
so wait 1 second.
Okay.
I need you to say that again to me. You think that Barr's very brief report, I'm not going to say that exonerated the president, but clearly turned our attention away from the 2016 campaign, you think that could be a positive for Democrats?
I absolutely do. If we prosecute the case against the president as it relates to the things that I believe he did, like colluding with Russia, we could lose the 2020 election. If we prosecute the case against the president,
that's sick. You know that, right?
Yes.
I mean, that's sick.
Oh, yeah. No, I'll stipulate to that. But he's the worst president we've ever had. If we prosecute the case against him that he is terrible at his job, that is much better for Democrats.
Ooh.
I mean, I heard someone told me the other day, this isn't the Mueller report. It's not about the Mueller report and what he did. It's all the things that the president is doing day to day in front of the American public, the things that we were talking about earlier on immigration. This is what the president needs to be held accountable for. And I think there's a point to that. So I think that's sort of what Democrats are, have their aim on and what they're going to focus on for 2020.
Except the legal mind to my left has smoke coming out her ears over that.
I have lots of smoke.
I could feel the heat. That's why I had to turn.
This is a really important conversation. I think there are important, legitimate points being made. I just want to actually point attention to something we don't pay attention to. There was this really interesting little set of focus groups in Iowa. It was about 5 days before the Mueller report came out. It was Republicans were one focus group, independents were another, and Democrats were a third. And the one thing that was the clear thread through all three was that if the president had obstructed justice, for Republicans, including Republicans, that was a significant and serious concern. And I think that matters because, we can't get so blinded by the political process that we forget that most of the country, regardless of party, does care about the rule of law and does care about whether or not we have a president who completely ignores it, maybe not for immigrant children, although we should be concerned about that, but certainly if there's a blatant Nixonian-like disregard for our rule of law. And so I do think on the obstruction in particular, that even for Republicans, that potentially is a very important issue for voters to understand in terms of who they will have the opportunity to choose in the next election.
Take this, Matt, because I understand your point. People vote based on how they feel. And it might not be logical, but it is what it is, and you have to get tactical in terms of politics. But if there was wrongdoing, and nothing happens, does that not rock our foundation?
Look, I'm not going to kind of opine about what historical significance it would have. And let me be clear, I agree 100% with Maya that this is a horrible set of facts that we're pretty confident this president is engaged in. But a couple of things. One is, Bill Clinton was actually impeached and tried in the Senate, and of course acquitted somewhat narrowly. One of the charges was obstruction. And at the end of that process, his approval rating was 68%. So there is downside risk to Democrats. And I'm talking only from the political perspective. I think there's all kinds of legal and constitutional and moral questions around this. I'll say one other thing about Bill Clinton, though. Ken Starr released every bit of his report, so much that when I called my wife one day, she said, I'm just reading the Washington Post porno section.
Oh, my God.
So it was a full report, let's just say, and we have to demand that of Barr as well.
Right now, your wife is going, what did you just say about me on live television? What's your take here, Lee?
Well, and the American people overwhelmingly do want to see the full
porno section of the Washington Post. Obviously, his approval rating
exactly, and I remember dial-up internet back in the day, and my mother said, do not go download that report, and of course, it was the first thing that I went to do. Obviously, I needed to read that. But I think that your point is morally correct in that this is an important juncture for rule of law in the country. My concern is that politically, it's completely baked in with Donald Trump supporters that he is going to play dirty. And they would almost be disappointed and surprised if he didn't play dirty, if he didn't obstruct justice. So that's why I wonder if it's not anything short of easily communicatable, just boom wrongdoing, if it does matter.
And that's the thing. You look at his poll numbers right now, and they are not moving. They are steady, and that is very indicative of what he is playing to. He knows his base is there. It's at 42%. It's not going anywhere, and he knows that. And that's the situation that he finds himself in, and what Democrats are battling.
Well, and one quick point is this recent decision that was made out of the D.C. Circuit that actually impacts the grand jury material, where the court said no. You actually have to fit within an exception, which means Congress has to start an impeachment process to argue for the grand jury material, but that's really bad for the country for all these points. What we want is a process for Congress to get information to decide whether or not there are grounds for an impeachment, not to force a process prematurely. That's bad for the country.
My goodness.